रंग चढ़े खुद का ही खुद पे बच्चों को तू ऐसे बढ़ा, बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना।
रोशन हो ये नन्हे दिए इन्हें तू रोज सजा, बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना।
जादू है ये जीने दे जरा, बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना।
गिरने दे बढ़ने दे उनको पास आए तो गले भी लगा,
बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना।
नई ये दुनिया नया आसमां,
बच्चों को बचपन से ही सिखा,
खेलते खेलते साथ निभा।
ऐसे तो उनका जीवन सजा।
ये बचपन है त्योहार हर दिन का, ये पहचान ले और रोज मना। बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना, बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना, बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना। अरे अब तो मना ले यारा।
Hi everyone. Play is the ultimate cheat code to create an optimum childhood experience in the first 3,000 days for every child. Parents, teachers, and every caring adult can make this possible for the 25 million children born every year in India by creating the time, space, and environment during this phase. But From Now is an initiative seeded by Eksa Foundation to amplify this narrative. This masterclass connects play and nature and will provide educators with practical strategies for nurturing deeper connections with nature and children through guided observation. Participants will explore sensory experiences, movement-based activities, and inquiry-based teaching and learning approaches to develop engaging indoor and outdoor learning opportunities. I'm Varun, and I work at Ekstep Foundation, and I will be your host for this evening, along with Priyanka Prakash from Nature Classrooms and Amrita Padgaonkar from Early Bird. Let me give you a short introduction about your facilitators. Amrita hails from Mumbai, and her flight into nature started when her parents took her for nature outings, and she slowly developed an interest as a young birder. While pursuing a bachelor's in zoology and master's in life science, she worked as a nature educator for 6 years with Sprout. She's also volunteered time to educate people of all age groups from underprivileged sectors by organizing nature trails, workshops, and cleanup drives. With Early Bird, Amrita hopes her passion for birds and work to popularize them comes full circle. Priyanka has a background in journalism and began her journey in the nature education space by actively working with children at schools to raise awareness about our oceans with a focus on waste management and sustainability. She then went on to pursue her master's in environmental studies, and for the past 2 years has been working with nature classrooms to develop a nature-based socio-emotional learning framework with an intent to integrate an effective approach to nature education. She also actively facilitates capacity building workshops and outreach engagements for teachers and educators on integrating nature education as a part of their teaching learning curriculum. Now I'd like to hand it over to Amrita and Priyanka to run you through the masterclass. Amrita, all yours.
Thanks so much, Varun, and thanks everyone for joining. We are really excited to interact with you all and go through all the fun activities as well that we have. So before we dive into actually what the session is all about, we just wanted to quickly introduce you to the work that we do and how that's going to be a great resource for you eventually. So with Early Bird, we are a not-for-profit initiative under Nature Conservation Foundation, and our aim is to bring uh, as many children as we can closer to nature. And we also want to do this by encouraging a lot of innovative educational materials, building capacity building with educators who can take up these methods to a larger number of kids. While we also do some bit of outreach where we directly engage with children. So these are some buckets in which we work in. While will introduce you to some of the resources that we have, and we have them in 9+ languages. So you'll get introduced to them slowly as in where they are relevant.
Thank you, Amrita. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today. Very excited to bring nature education to all of you. A little bit about nature classrooms. We are also a not-for-profit initiative, and primarily our work has been to look at how nature education can become a part of the mainstream education curriculum that's there in schools. So we work very closely with the EVS curriculum. In addition to that, we also look at the integration of EVS into other areas of subjects and concepts that are being taught in school and in the school spaces. And where is it that we can step in to support teachers and educators in making it more effective? So we do this mainly through 3 ways. We do workshops such as this, and we do capacity building for teachers in different school spaces. We also develop locally relevant, age-appropriate nature learning resources that teachers can easily use in their learning spaces. And like Amrita said, we'll introduce it to you through the course of today's session. And we also conduct different research projects to understand how we can further strengthen the work that we are trying to do in the space of nature education and link it to the larger education space. So that's a little brief about us. Thank you so much for having us, and we are looking forward to the next 1 hour with all of you. Amrita? Okay, so before we begin into us telling you what we do, what we have, and why we think nature education is fundamental for the age group that all of us are talking about, I would like to just begin by asking all of y'all to reflect, and if y'all can share this in the chat, maybe in a line or two with me, that'd be very, very nice, and we will have a discussion around it as we go forward. So if you can take a minute to just reflect, look back at your childhood, maybe think about the memories, and put probably in one line in the chat, what was nature for you as a child? So as you were growing up as a kid yourself, probably 6, 7, 8-year-old kids, what was nature for you, and how did you connect with nature? A line or two should be more than enough in the chat. Climbing trees, okay, amazing. Okay. A small garden inside your home and fields, okay. Happiness, healing element from your study, and it still is. Playing in soil, very nice. Playing with soil. I already see the word playing coming in multiple times. Playing with water, mud, hugging big trees. Tall trees, sound of leaves, rustling, hugging, cooking with leaves, playing in rainwater. Wow. Looking at the stars, stark distinction between city skies, insects. Okay, maybe a minute more for you all to add in some more memories. Birds, okay. Watching roadside trees, observing, feeling happy, grounding and playing. Flowers. Okay, maybe a response or two more. Anybody else wants to add? Making leaf salad. Wow. Greenery. Okay. Vastness. Seems like all of you almost have some fond memories as children with nature. Okay, continuing to this thought of how y'all connected as a child, I would now like for y'all to reflect and share in the chat. Amrita, the next one. What is nature for children today? So this is all that y'all shared from your childhood, how nature felt for you. But now that as y'all are educators, teachers, people working with young kids, how are they connecting with nature around them? Okay, something they see on TV, that's true. Quiet time, pollution, vacation spots, interesting. Goa beach, yeah. Climate anxiety, thank you for bringing that up, yes. Garden. How else are you seeing the children that you work with connect with nature around you? Are they even connecting with nature? Jungle safari, see, very curated, yeah. Weekends visit to suburban farms, something you peek just through the windows. Okay, maybe a few seconds more for some answers. Outings. Okay, any more? Visiting parks. Special effort is needed. That's true. That's true. Parks. Garden, curious about elements of nature. Okay. Yeah, maybe an answer, a response more, and then we'll take this into the discussion more. Something we are not a part of. Okay. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. I think that's base of the essence that we wanted to bring out for the session today, and basically use this to set the context of why we think nature education is fundamental to the larger learning that children experience, especially in the years that all of us are thinking about, right? 0 to 8 years that we all are talking about, the early childhood period. And I think, like Varun pointed out right at the beginning, it's the age when it's a fundamental years of development for children, right? Kids are scared of infections these days. Absolutely. There's so much fear. There's so much disconnection, right? But at the core of it, we all are talking about things like we need to protect our planet. We need to do things for our planet. There's care needed, stewardship needed. We use words like climate change. A lot of those things are present and very real today, right? Let alone talking about it, we are seeing the repercussions of it. We are seeing the effects of it today. And so children, while they may seem disconnected because they are far more indoors these days, they have far more access to digital devices these days, the truth is nature has a huge role to play in how children develop in these years. And there's enough research, and I'm sure a lot of you would have also come across enough research around how nature can really support the development of children in these years, right? So just to set a context of why nature education is fundamental in those early childhood learning stages, right? Amrita? So one, of course, is if we want children to have an appreciation and care for nature, because a lot of the conversations around sustainability and a lot of the conversations around what we see as a future for our nature is on the shoulders of young kids today. And if we want them to feel more connected, it's important that the foundations of it are not responsibility and fear, but rather it's the care, love, and the time they spend in nature that makes them innately feel like, yes, this is something that I want to care for and appreciate and probably protect as I grow older, right? And so that lays a foundation, and that age group is the absolute right age group to begin, because children are just making sense of the world around them. They're trying to use their senses. They're trying to build connections with things that's around them. And they're trying to understand what their place in the larger world that they are in is, right? Second, Amrita? Then, of course, looking at the whole development of the child itself, right? And like I said, there's enough research that shows how spending time in nature especially can really support the development of children, be it in terms of cognitive development, be it their physical development, like climbing trees, being outside. Nature allows for so much play, and which was highlighted right at the beginning, right? Play is such a fundamental part of that age group that we are talking about. And nature allows for something like that. Even things like motor development, social and emotional, nature allows for social interactions. Nature allows you to build in those connections and context to who you are, what your sense of belonging to the place is. And so nature is not, it's a two-way response of how we want children to perceive nature, but at the same time, how is nature being a home to the kids as they're growing up? Amrita? And very interestingly, if a lot of you all work with the national education policy or the national curriculum framework, you'll see there is emphasis for spending time in nature in the foundational stages of children's development, right? Where they say that how nature can be weaved into the larger pedagogy of children's development, where you're thinking about sensorial development, you're thinking about how are they going to understand nature, how are they going to physically develop by being able to spend time in nature. So there's a lot of emphasis, and there's a lot of talk around this is important. Yes, this needs to be done. And so what is it that we can do to simply integrate it in the kind of work that we all are trying to do with the kids that we are engaging with? And finally, to think it off in the lens of how children learn at this stage, right? Children are natural learners. And in this stage, a lot of it has to do with the kind of empathy and the kind of feelings they are developing towards the things around them, right? And a lot of it also has to do with the adults that they are surrounded by and how they are helping them engage with the surroundings that they are in. It's also an age where children have imaginary friends. They are creating the world that they imagine. They're trying to join dots, make stories, and nature allows for a lot of that. It's also an age where kids may develop fear, and a lot of our fear towards nature is very survival based and also based strongly on how the adults around us are perceiving nature. So what is it that we can do in this age to understand how kids are connecting, building empathy, not just towards fellow human beings, but towards other beings that are there, be it trees, insects, birds, and how do we make them feel like everything is interconnected and deeply related to how they engage with something around them? And so that's why early childhood can be such a foundational year where things like play, things like spending time in nature can become a core foundation of how kids are engaging with nature around them. Amrita? And so a lot of practices around the world, especially in the West, and a lot more now in India is picking up, where they say that what are the possible pedagogical approaches you can think of for nature learning in early childhood, right? A very simple thing to begin with is time in nature. A lot of teachers, when we do these sessions, they ask us, oh, do we have to take our kids far away to some safari or to some distant area where there's wilderness? Not at all. Just a tree in your backyard can make so much difference. And we often try and encourage, and a lot of the things that we'll share today is about observing the nature that's right beside you, right? And we often overlook those little elements that show us how we are very deeply interconnected with nature around us. Amrita? Play and movement, of course. Nature gives you that space. Nature also gives you a chance to observe and make sense of a lot of the concepts that we eventually do learn in school, right? A lot of the textbook concepts that we learn can be picked up from our observation observation of nature and making those larger connections. Similarly, knowledge and skill development, social interactions, spending time in parks, getting kids to do group activities in nature, getting them to observe together and share their lived experiences and their understanding of how they've seen nature from their homes, from their parents, from their grandparents, from their families. Of course, using creative arts, and we'll share a bit of that as well today. Spending time, Amita, next one. Spending time to reflect, think, observe nature. A lot of you all shared how nature makes you feel a lot of things, right? And that's true for all of us from a very young age. So what are these things that nature is allowing us to feel? Family connections, a lot of our social, cultural contexts are so deeply connected with nature, be it the festivals we celebrate, be it the foods that we eat. And so where can nature be interconnected with those family connections that again give children of this age group that sense of belonging and that sense of interconnectedness, right? And of course, personal connections. Why do I like a bird? Why do I want to catch that ant? Why do I want to see why a butterfly is this color? In the video that we saw right at the beginning, we saw kids just fascinated by fireflies, right? And to this day, it's a fascination for all of us. So what is the personal connect that children are bringing? And these are some approaches that we as educators can use when we think about integrating nature in a very simplified way into the kind of sessions that we do. Today, we'll probably touch upon one or two of these, but the idea is to just get you all to get a bit excited about nature education and also just introduce you to some of the things that we have tried and tested in the work that we do. Amrita, over to you.
So, one of the main things that we want to touch upon today is observations and guided observations, and how do we get kids to look at the surroundings that they are in and not really going very far, or not having a image of where nature is just not reachable, not approachable. So to just set the stage, can you in the chat, when you think of observations and observing nature, what are the things that come to your mind? What is observations? You can take a minute to type it in the chat, what you think observations mean to you, or in general, what the definition would mean. Noticing, slowing down, sensing, and sense making. Okay. Noticing, seeing, sensing. A small example being when a monkey enters a home, which is common these days, observing them and their movements. Okay. Seeing, feeling, interesting. Understanding what we see, observations, feeling, gaining information and knowledge about what we see, feel, and hear. That's actually something that we would really like to dive in, because observation to us is sometimes we just imagine it to be the sight, the things that we see. but it often also involves a lot of our other senses. So we'll dive into that, but just to get you into the feel of the interactiveness of this session. If you have your pens and paper handy with you, it would be nice if you can just close your eyes and on the paper, just scribble something, like make random scribbles around on your paper. Yes, and keep like you can in the chat, I can see yet people are putting in what observation means to them, and it nature curiosity and noticing, and all of these are really important entities when it comes to observations. So I hope everyone, whoever has access to any stationery where you can draw these squiggles, you do please do that. And why are we just scribbling at this point is because these scribbles can actually turn into beautiful birds. If you can see in these two birds, we've added like a beak to it, feet to it. In this one, there's a tail as well. So it's just not, the idea is just to observe things in a way where you can turn it into whatever you want. So at first it might just look like random scribbles, but you can turn them into birds as well. And this is like one of an easiest way to get kids of younger generation, younger age to draw a bird, because creating a sketch of a bird can be very daunting and intimidating for sure. Especially for people who don't see art as a skill that they hold. For someone who's scared of making bad art, this can never go wrong. It can be any kind of a squirrel, and you can yet get it right and get it made into a bird. So this is like, it brings in some motor activity, it brings in some inspiration and observation as well to get started. And eventually the idea is we just often we use these squiggle bird activities or thumb bird activities to get kids started out with art and being comfortable in this space, and then get them to do some more deeper observation. And another easy way to get started is nature journaling. Here are some easy prompts that you can use to get them started. Does anyone or all of you have something from nature with you, or you can observe something around you? And we can do a quick nature journal session as well. We can try our hands out nature journaling. It can be anything from nature. If you are probably commuting, it could be some tree that you see outside, or if you have a house plant, it could even be that. It can be your pet, it could be an insect that you see, anything. Great, interesting, why not? Or it could be any interpretation of yours that you think can fit in this prompt of anything from nature. Once you have that with you, the first thing you have to do is you have to write something for the prompt, I notice. It means it could be anything that you notice. Its shape, its texture, the colors and the patterns it might have, anything and everything that you notice about the thing from nature that you have. Once you have that, you can also try and sketch it out. Whatever ways you can, just try and draw the thing from nature so that it helps you make even deeper observations. Because if it's even a leaf, if you see something and you're trying to draw it, it just helps you look at the shape, observe the shape. If it's curving a little too much or it is a straight line, it gives you a good sense of what the thing is and how it is. And next would be, I wonder. Bring out the curiosity and imagination, all that you have, and look at this object and question yourself about what are the different things that come to your mind when you look at it. Are there any questions that, if, like, example, if I'm looking at a leaf, then I'm wondering if the leaf belongs to which plant. If I know the plant, if the leaf has holes, then is it the holes are naturally there, or they are made by some insect? Let your questions keep flowing. And if you feel comfortable, do share your observations in the chat, like Priyanka mentioned. Keep interacting with us in the chat. It's really nice to see what you're thinking and what your observations have been. And the last thing being, it reminds me of. This is a point where you look back at things that you have observed, you have noticed, and what does it remind you of? Does it, building associations basically. If I have a leaf and it is a heart-shaped leaf, I like, okay, it reminds me of an heart or some object of that shape that is a fond memory for me. Just trying to build such associations as well, bring and having this nostalgia aspect to it. It really helps you build the nature connection. So I can see some responses, and I'll just quickly read one. So I noticed tall Christmas trees. I wonder how tall they can grow. Lovely. For a coconut shell, Hita writes, its rough exterior. I wonder where the tree would be. It reminds me of sandpaper. Lovely. And for the Christmas tree, Deepa mentions it reminds me of constant growth, constant change that happens around us. Very philosophical as well, Deepa. And this is what it is. It doesn't have to be an object. It can be anything that you're reminded of. And these prompts are very easy, and it doesn't have a age barrier. You can try it out with any kid who can possibly write. But if they can't, it can also be a verbal sharing and verbal observation as well. It's just that one has to open the space, or give them a space for them to exchange their thoughts, share what they feel, and observe. And in all of this, if you realize, we are trying to use all our senses. We are trying, when we are saying we notice, it's more about what we see. If we are hearing something, then it is, if we are in a nature space or something that in a park, or even in the window sill somewhere, you can hear things as well, and that can also be a part of your observation. If you have a leaf or a flower, the smell part also comes in, I notice. Yeah. Taste, be careful when you tell children to taste something, because it can get a little risky. But yeah, it does add on to another layer of experience. It's more hands-on, and it lives with you with some more intricacies of what is around you. And then feel, yes, the texture and things that you feel. But also, I would say that apart from the senses, feel as in the I'm reminded of something, the nostalgia feel of it as well. So try and bring in as many senses as you can, because that's what is going to help you, or help the children as well, to remember things better, connect with them better, because then they know how it feels when it's touched. They know how it looks like. They know what some memory of something can then they can recollect as, oh, this sounds like the rustling of the leaves. But also, to a certain extent, being, someone said, quite the way that children these days connect to nature is being quiet in a place, or being in a quiet place. Yes, and that's how even embracing silence can be important, because that helps us understand and observe the other voices and sounds that are there otherwise. So one interesting activity that based on these senses, one of educator Fred had done it. It was raining outside a lot, and they wanted to take them on a tree walk, but they couldn't because it was raining and it wasn't possible where the kids could be outdoors. So what they did was, these educators, the kids' teachers just went out, looked for some leaves and some seeds, and got them indoors. Now the task for the kids was to bring in. They had to make pairs of different leaves and fruits, and they had to match it to each other. They could use all the things that they can possibly. Prior knowledge of knowing the leaf and the fruit, they could touch and smell. Sometimes the leaf smell has some relation to the fruit smell and things like those, but that may not necessarily be right. But they had to try out all the possible things that they could to get and try and get the right match. And some of them really tried all the senses, all the different ways, the shapes and the colors and all the various things that they possibly could. And most of them did get it right. Eventually, when the rain stopped, the teacher told them to go out with their fruit and leaf pair, go out and look for the tree as well, because it was the tree from their school campus. And then even standing below the tree, they were trying to match the shapes of the leaf and everything, and trying to observe these teeny tiny details which otherwise would have been missed out. So this is a very interesting activity that I find, that not only brings in trying to bring out the previous knowledge that the children have, where something they are trying to go back to their older observation, but also trying to make just conscious choices based on what they see and what they have available as their resource. The least they had was their own senses. So
Thanks, Amrita. And we'll also encourage you to keep sharing the 3 prompts that Amrita shared with you, to keep putting those in your chat, because I think it's really nice, some of the things that all of you are observing. But we also wanted to share some more examples of different things that we have facilitated in sessions and how they have panned out. Also brought up learnings for us as we did some of these things. For example, this is one of the schools that we work with in Bangalore, in the peri-urban area of Bangalore. And the teacher here was facilitating a session around senses and how different animals use their senses. And if you'll ever get a chance to read some of it, it's fascinating how animals use senses so differently from all of us, right? But a very interesting thing that happened in this session was, one of the students in this class, she's a bit hard of hearing. And the teacher realized that talking about senses in such a space may not be inclusive if she just got right into the topic. So she got the student to sit very close to her in addition to all the other kids that are there. And you can see that girl in the right side very close to her. And she narrated a story from their area, which is a folk story that they talk about a king who was hard of hearing, but how all his other senses were heightened, and how all his subjects and his community people supported him and loved the king that he was. And that's how she began the session, so that the child felt included in the concept of senses and didn't feel left out as she facilitated the session forward. And then as the children went on to do things like sensory mapping, they went out and they found things, and you can see the drawings and writings that some of the children and the teachers have done together. The kids started helping her through the course of the session, right? They were there for her, they were collectively doing it with her. And there's a great learning of how keeping in mind things like inclusivity and accessibility for different children that are there in our classroom can also become a crucial point. But nature can also allow for us. So a lot of stories about how animals use senses is very fascinating, and can talk to us about how senses vary in different beings across nature. Amrita? Another session that we often facilitate with very young kids is just concepts around colors and patterns in nature, right? And so we often just ask them to go and pick up the primary colors that they see, be it pink, purple, black, red, blue, whatever they see around them. And we ask them to form color wheels. And it's a great way to learn colors. And children often get so excited. They will also talk about how this green is different from this green, how one tree has darker green, one tree has lighter green. And they come up with all kinds of questions, which is amazing to hear and just see them how they're making sense of what they're seeing around them. So this is one such session that we had done around colors, and we also ask them to think about patterns. They pick up shells, they pick up different twigs, textures that they feel and they think best fit. And this sheet is very, we'll share this with you. It's available and free to use and download as well. But it's a great sheet for children to just pick things, because children like to do things that are more hands-on in this age. So just another example of a session that we facilitate to connect young children to nature. Amrita? Another thing that we have in our series of our resource, which seems to work so well with children and educators, is the bingo sheets that we have created. These are simple 4x4 or 3x3 grid sheets, which have guides for observing things around you, right? And these are based on different themes. So you have things like breeding birds. You have simple basic nature-based prompts like, do you see a nest around you? Do you see a fallen leaf around you? Do you see a flower around you? Similarly, there are things based on trees. There's things based on seasonality. So are there certain things you see during the rain, certain things you see during just summers, winters? We also have a bingo for things that you see inside your house. You may see things like a bulbul on a tree next to your house. You may see a spider web in the corner of your wall. But these things are a great way for children to feel guided to observe things around their nature. And usually it gets a bit competitive and fun when we ask children to say, like, go and do, like, who gets the first row? Let's see who comes back first with the first 5 observation, who comes back first with the first 3 observation. And children get really excited and energetic, and they often do it in groups. They automatically form these social bonds of like, let's do this together, let's go out together, let's find things together. These are just some session where we have got this not just for children to do, but even teachers. And teachers find it so exciting. It's a great starter resource for people or educators who don't know what topics to begin with, and or just want to do an icebreaker for a longer session that you have planned on some other topic altogether. But it can be a great way to just get kids energized, great way for kids to just get their senses and their physical movement going. And you can also make your own bingo based on the school that you're in, based on the community that you're living in, based on the context that you're in. You can also make your own bingo, and it's so easy. And we'll also give it to you for you to try it out later in the end of the session. But this is again one such example of how we encourage guided observation in children. Amrita? Yeah.
And
Go over to you.
and just picking up from the play aspect and movement aspect that these bingos bring in. And something that we set the stage with in the beginning as well. Okay, these are play is such an important aspect of early childhood where they would want nothing more than just playing and not want to be learning. But as teachers, as educators, we would want them to learn. Then why not just give them what they want while achieving what our motives and our goals are as well? So let's start out with another game before. So this is an just a prop where you have to guess what this bird is based on the image that you see. It's like a Pictionary. Keep the. I'm not going to give you the answer until I have some more responses in the chat. Use the chat box to. Okay, I see a lot of bulbul answers. Anyone think it is anything other than a bulbul? Because all the answers that we have got until now are bulbul. If you think it is not a bulbul, make sure you write it out now in the chat. And maybe you might be right. Okay, so everyone's right where it is a bulbul. And these things are not just for the game, but then what do? You can then show them a photo of a bulbul and talk about bulbul. You can talk about the nesting of the bulbul. You can talk about the colors. You can talk about their calls. You can talk about anything that you want about the bulbul. But you just use that like pictobird as we call it, or a Pictionary to just get the conversation started. Guess this tree. Let the chat box active again. What
Amrita,
tree is this?
Okay, the slide just shifted. Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's...
You can see it now? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Jackfruit. That's right. And do you know that with jackfruit, this we would call as an entire fruit, but actually the tiny things that from the inside that we eat are the actual fruits, which is engulfed or encapsulated in this one entire thick fleshy cover. So bringing in such fun facts as well, this can be a good opportunity to do that. So that's one way. What age range group would this activity work best? So again, this is such a versatile activity based on the vocabulary that the age group that you're working in has, or the relevance to the area that you're working in. It could be remade adapted into a regional language as well. It is so versatile that you can make anything into a Pictionary and take it forward from there.
Yeah, and if I can add, you can also do it based on where the children are in terms of joining words or the number of like the kind of words that they're learning. So even very simple things like ant, crow, these are very starter vocabulary that kids learn at very young age, right? And there are fascinating ways of putting this into Pictionary, pictobird format that Amrita did. So generally that primary, pre-primary age group is a great way to start off for kids to just verbalize some of these things and make those connections using this activity.
So the imagery can change based on what the kids know. And again, the words can adapt as well. So most of the activities that we are going to share are such where you can use it across ages. Then it can be like a 1-year-old to a 90-year-old kid as well. It is who you're working with after all.
Yeah, so just adding on to what I think Amrita shared and showed about play and movement, we thought we'd just show you some more examples of how we have used it with young children like 5, 6-year-old that we worked with, how we got them to engage with different concepts around ecology and environment, but in a way that's fun and that's exciting and something that we hope they will carry with them as they go forward. So if you see in the first image, we wanted children to understand how bats basically use sound to navigate. And we thought a fun way to do it would be to get the one child to blindfold the child and get them other students in the circle to make sounds and see whether the child is able to gauge where the sound is coming from and who they're supposed to go towards. And it was such a fun activity, right? And it didn't require much. Just a very basic introduction into bats, because bats is something we all hear about. It's a mammal that we see all the time around us. We talk about it. So it was a fun way to just get them to introduce, not going too much into the details about what a bat does, why it does that and all of it, but a starter point to get kids curious about bats, right? And so the next time they see bats, they will probably empathize and understand possibly how the bat is moving around and trying to find its food and find its way around. Similarly, the second photo, I'm sure all of you all would have heard of the fig trees, such as your peepal, your banyan, etc. So the fruits of the fig tree have a very interesting story. There's a particular fig wasp specific to each of those fig trees that pollinate that particular fruit. And we wanted to teach this complex concept to children. So we have a very interesting way of narrating a very simple story of how a fig wasp goes into a fig fruit and tries to make its way around. And one of our fellow educators, she facilitated this session for kids to enact, after she narrated the story, how they think a fig wasp enters a fig fruit. And again, a great way to get them to understand these concepts, because otherwise they can seem so complex and disconnected and far away from us. Another fun activity is that the kids had a lunch break in one of the schools and they were eating. And while they were eating, we asked them, okay, you eat this way. This is how your jaw moves when you eat. Have you noticed how a cow or a cattle's jaw moves? And the kids first tried to imitate, and they had a cattle shed right next to their school. So then we asked them, why don't you just go see how they do it? And immediately the kids ran, and you can see they all are crouched trying to see how the cattle is eating. And then they had their own understanding, their own imagination, their own reasoning as to why a cattle eats that way. The jaw is like this, the teeth is like this. Based on the food they eat, Then they had a discussion around, oh, do you think cattle can eat this food? Can it eat what you're eating? So great way to just get them interested and engaged and curious. And the kind of questions that come after the session, it sometimes boggles our mind as even people who are working in this space for so long. We get completely like blown away by the kind of questions they ask us. And so it keeps their innate wonder and sense of curiosity alive. And we truly believe nature is a great way to do that for them. Amrita? Another thing that we have developed quite a while back, and we trialed it with very young kids, is a whole module on movements in nature, right? How do we link the concept of different things, how they move around us in nature, to different concepts that we learn? A great way to also get kids to physically move around, work in groups, also observe very closely. So a lot of this segments in this entire module, again, we share it, it's free to use and download, is about facilitating sessions that gets kids to not just observe, but also empathize, enact, and understand the different connections. So you can see some examples here. So some of the activities are very icebreaker based activities, right? Where we ask them to enact different animals that they know and they have seen around them. Some are to talk about larger plant animal interactions. So we'll ask children to say that, how do you think a bird is perched on a tree? So one child becomes a tree, the other child becomes a bird. Or how do you think a butterfly and a bird may interact? Something that is so imaginative, but kids come up with all sorts of things to, enact it and connect it with each other through the movement sense. So we ask them to go out, observe things that they see that's moving around them, and come back and enact it. So they'll enact things like caterpillar, they'll enact things like butterfly, they'll enact things like trees. And of course, hand gestures is another example that we tried out with them. So this module has a range of activities detailed out in terms of what you need, how you can do it. Amrita? And it also has a bingo, and it can help for great indoor sessions, right? So often some teachers tell us that, hey, we're not able to do sessions outdoors. Sometimes it's not viable for us to take kids outside and do these things. What is it that we can do indoors? So this is one such example. Play movement allows you to try a lot of things indoors while trying to also observe things that are outside of your school. So this is one such example of how we try to bring play and movement and get kids to think about the nature through their lived experiences via theater and play inside the classroom. And we also have a movements bingo. So just children going out and observing things. It's a unstructured time that children get. They feel free to just go around, yet there is some guidance that they are following. So it's a great way for children to have a sense of agency when they're out there and exploring. Amrita? Yeah, over to you, Amrita.
Yeah. So when we were talking about the resources and what all you could use, there are a lot of resources between early bird and nature classrooms that are there, but also above and beyond this, which we'll share with you. And if you would like, you can reach out to us as well. And most or almost all our resources are free to use and download from our website. So we'll share the links with you as well. So you can see, like, one of my favorite things to use for kids for play and movement and just observations as well, for that matter. There it is, this flashcard set, which gives you so much possibilities of different things you can do. It has photo of a bird, it has information about the birds, and we know kids as young as a year old, or even probably just learning to speak. We have parents send us videos of them about trying to memorize the bird name, and then the parent is showing them these flashcards and they are trying to guess the bird name, and they've gotten it right. There are words that probably we might not imagine a kid to be speaking that young, but just because it is something that they found attractive, something that fascinated them, they managed to grasp those words and put them in their vocabulary to an extent where they could remember it, memorize it, and also speak. So as young as that, to older kids, you can play games like memory games, or you can do matching of habitats to the food, to all the various things. And there are a lot of other activities, or you can be creative and create a game of your own. So that's one of my favorite resources that we have, which again ranges a lot between, it just depends on how you use it. and you can use it for very young kids to older kids as well. Prema, anything you would like to add?
No, so just the next slide. That's it. You can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so just as we close the session and we probably open the floor, just want to share this one experience that we had in developing this particular resource. It's a storybook that we released around 2 years back. It's called There's Nothing There. There's a school, like I said, that we work with in peri-urban Bangalore, and we've been working with them for quite a few years now. So the children know us, they're attached to us, they share a lot with us. And based on our observations and time that we've spent with them, we actually co-created this book with them. So it's everything that the children around them see, the biodiversity that they see around them. And it's their uniform, it's their surroundings. So when we showed the storybook to them, they got so excited to see their community and their surrounding being represented in that book, that the children took the book out, they went out, they roamed around with the book, tried to see if they could find things in the book too, if it's there still in their surrounding. And a lot of things that is featured in this book is something that you'll find anywhere, especially in rural and urban spaces that are just developing. You will easily find similar plants and animals. So we try to keep it a bit generic in that sense. But something very fascinating we found is, I don't know if you can see it in this picture on the left corner. Two kids are trying to, so the bird, you see the wing here, it's an Indian roller bird. And kids are trying to match the book, two books together to form those wings. So they were having their own time with the books, trying to see what they can do, how they can connect it. So we found it so fascinating. And I feel stories can be a great way, especially if the stories represent where the children are coming from and what is the experiences that they are having with nature. And so this is something that we always share because we've seen how when children see stories connect with their life, it really, really lightens them up and they become so involved in what's happening and sharing and talking. Even kids who generally don't share a lot in classes or are not very vocal also feel like coming forward and bringing in their experiences. So this is just one anecdote that we want to share. Amrita, if you want to add anything as we conclude.
Yeah, just emphasizing more on the idea that theater, movement, and stories, especially if they are relatable to their own lives, adds another kind of a stronger connection to things that you're talking about in that movement.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was just a brief intro from our end to what you can start off with when we think about nature education. We just want to introduce you all to not just a tool, but the idea that how fascinating nature can be around us. There is so much that you can just see out of your window. And we really hope that this gives you that starting encouragement to introduce nature for your children. The book is available on our website. It's free again to download. So Varun will be sharing that link, but I'll also put it in the chat for all of you. But yes, we hope you see value in this. We'll also have a follow-up session next week where we'll engage a little bit more deeply with the pedagogical approach of how you can think about nature education through an inquiry-based lens. And yeah, we are happy to open the floor to questions. If Amrita, you have anything to add before.
If you have any questions, we are here to answer any of them.
Okay, I'd love to hear one thing from you all, with, all of the work that you all have done, what are some insights that you all have gained from this experience in like curating these activities or even implementing them and executing them? Yeah, just any insights would be great.
Yeah, I think one great thing about doing anything of this sort is, as educators, we experience it ourselves. And today, that was one attempt that we made, is you experience what you want to get your audience to ultimately achieve. And when you see value in it, it's easier to get others to as well. So it can be a kid or it can be an adult for that matter. Just having that curiosity, like keeping that curiosity alive in you as well, is something that really works wonders. And that's something that has also helped us curate these activities or learn from them as well.
Yeah, I second Amrita. A lot of the resources that we have created is by talking to teachers, getting their feedback on what's worked and what's not. And that's helped us also as people who develop these things to keep in mind a lot of the things in terms of feasibility, accessibility, inclusivity. And I think another key learning for us has been that how actually easy it is to integrate nature into the learning spaces, irrespective of what subject you're teaching, right? Be it math, be it language, be it music, dance, science, social science. It's amazing and fascinating. And it's also accessible to all, right? It's not something that's accessible only to a few. And that's something we really try to bring out in the interactions that we do with teachers. And we also hear a lot from teachers when they tell us that, oh, we never thought we could do something so simple in our backyard. And so, of course, we talk about climate change. We talk about all the larger things that's worrying us today. But on a very other side of it is just looking at a tree, just looking at a bird, hearing a bird call can make so much of a difference to just how we feel and how all of us are, I think, kind of going through our lives, right? And so that moment of pause that nature brings, I think teachers also find it very fascinating. So that's been a learning that how do we integrate that positive approach to nature that is needed in today's time, has been a big takeaway for us.
Hi, one thing I wanted to share, not a question. I really appreciate and love the fact that you spoke about nature as so accessible and near everyone, right? Because the predominant thought is it is, especially for people in urban settings, it's too far away, it is inaccessible. I think taking that away and putting this lens of whether it is that tree or plant in front of you, an animal around, whatever it may be, right, can become that conduit to thinking, reflecting, wondering about nature. I really loved that aspect that you brought into the presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Radhika. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Deepa, you want to share or ask the question?
Yes. First of all, thank you. It's a wonderful session, and now you give wings to my imagination. So, so I had been doing a lot of things in my school where I was working previously. Right now, like at present, I'm doing things at home. But the thing is, when I used to teach in a school, it had a lot of kids with special needs. So I'm quite curious and try to understand how these sensory things can help. So what we used to do was we used to make them plant. We used to have a market day in our school, and we used to prepare pots. So these days, kids do not want to work in mud. They don't want to touch the soil. So it was a compulsory class for them to pot a plant. And I was like very skeptical before that, before getting things, my hands dirty in the sand, because it's like also skeptical. Okay, what if someone touches, some insect comes and bites them or something? But nothing of that sort happened. But actually, when we put our hands in mud, right, it is therapeutic. Children learn so much, the textures, and I used to have my classes around textures that you feel in the potting soil. So there's this cocoa peat, there's this sand, this is then this is this mud that you have around the. So we used to work around that, and we used to work around pebbles, the different sizes of the pebbles. And when they used to see their plant growing, watering and growing each day, cleaning the leaf which was filled with dirt after a couple of days after vacations when they come. And occasionally we used to, because our school had a lot of plants around, obviously there were a couple of insects near it. So once we saw a small baby frog just turned from tadpole to frog. It had jumped, and we were like, we started, all the kids started jumping like frogs. So, having yoga also as a part of the curriculum, we used to do a lot of insects or animal poses. So, that was also a part of nature study for us. And then we used to put those earthworms, feel it ourselves in our hands as teachers. And same way, we used to ask the kids if you want to touch it. So that removes that hesitance or resistance from the kids. It obviously took some time for them to touch it, but then they were curious and they wanted to do it, touch it, and feel it. And in Bangalore, where as we live, we have a lot of snails around us, right? So we can always watch how the snails move. So wherever I find pictures or wherever I observe something, I take pictures and videos, and next day I go to the class and show it to them on the TV in the school.
Yeah.
Or now, as I work from home, it's like my students, whenever they come, I will always give them an image or a video and ask them to, I'm a language teacher, so ask them to write a paragraph or few sentences, what they see in the video or what they see in the image in Hindi or English, whatever subject they are learning here. So this nature integration is really interesting, and this reminds me of this a very beautiful story that definitely touches upon a lot of aspects apart from nature. So the nature stories are like more of moral subjects, I think, or understanding the different age groups. So this the tadpole promise, such a beautiful story. It teaches the life cycle of a tadpole and a butterfly, frog and a butterfly, but how they change, how fast or how late, what are the changes. So, yeah, but your session has given me a lot of aspects to be integrated in my storytelling. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Deepa. I think you highlighted an important point, how ongoing nature learning has to be, right? So it's not a
Yeah.
one-off session. If you can integrate it in small, small ways in the larger sessions that you all are anyways doing, be it like an icebreaker, be it like a break between the longer sessions that you're doing, or be it just something to give your kids a space to go explore, that itself can make a huge difference. So yeah,
Yes.
we thank you, Deepa, for sharing your experience. A lot for us also to learn. So yeah, thank you. I think there was one question in the chat. Varun, if it's okay,
Yeah, please.
it's really interesting to see how you're integrating nature learning into classrooms. I'm curious, are these practices being implemented by the teachers themselves, or is it your team that visits the school and facilitates them? So I will talk a bit about what we do at Nature Classrooms. Is we only train and work with teachers and educators. We do not directly work with children. And so a lot of the work for us is to facilitate teachers to get excited about nature and then get them to trial this out. So all the teachers that we have worked with, we have trained them, and of course, of which not everybody, but quite a few of them are doing it themselves in the schools. And so with that intent only, we have developed a lot of our resources such that a teacher, even if they've not been trained by us, can easily pick up a resource and make sense of how they can use it in their classroom spaces. So that's how we work with them. Amrita, you can also add how early bird
So
also.
similar to nature classrooms, our main focus is on capacity building for the teachers, where we give them access to all these resources and ideas and approaches, which we hope they eventually take to the kids. But like small aspect of what we do does involve outreach, where we try and incorporate these learnings ourselves. So it's largely through these online workshops or bird walks that we do. But yes, like I said, most of it would be through getting the teachers enabled to do these activities themselves without us being present in the picture. Yeah, so to add to this, we do have this one handbook for educators, as we call it, where you can look through, and it's given like lovely instructions to all the different activities that you can possibly take up. And it guides you through all the materials you need, the space, what kind of space you can work it out, what audience you need. All of this is really well put into that handbook, and there's an e-version of it that's available, and we can share the link with you as well for that. So you can, so things like these that we do so that the teachers and educators feel that they have enough to get started.
Awesome, great. Thanks, Amrita, and thanks, Priyanka. I guess we can end there. We just want to also let you know that there is a part 2 of this masterclass happening next week. And Priyanka and Amrita will be facilitating that one too. Please do be there. And yes, thank you so much for your time and for coming here and asking your questions and for also your lovely comments. We will be sharing the resources through the Bachpan Now Gmail ID as well through a newsletter. So yeah, hope to see you next week and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
so much,
joining.
everyone. Yes.
रंग चढ़े खुद का ही खुद पे बच्चों को तू ऐसे बढ़ा बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना
रोशन हो ये नन्हे दिए इन्हें तू रोज सजा बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना
जादू है ये जीने दे जरा बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना
गिरने दे बढ़ने दे उनको पास आए तो गले भी लगा
बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना
नई ये दुनिया नया आसमां
बच्चों को बचपन से ही सिखा
खेलते खेलते साथ निभा
ऐसे तो उनका जीवन सजा
ये बचपन है त्योहार हर दिन का ये पहचान ले और रोज मना बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना बचपन मना रे यारा बचपन मना अरे अब तो मना ले यारा